Ever wonder why we relate and connect to stories around us?
Welcome to the DNA Podcast, a show where we discuss books, movies, and entertainment that help us understand who we really are.
I'm Dakota.
And I'm Annabella.
Let's dive into our DNA. Now we're cooking with some gas.
Yeah, we are.
Almost getting to episode 10.
How? I really don't even understand. I feel like we just started yesterday and now we're just like a full-blown podcast. I'm so proud.
I know. We've come a long way. It's been good. Excuse me. Getting choked up over this over here. Ugh. It's just like really emotional.
I mean, this podcast would be actually nothing without you, so just to be clear.
I mean, the same with you, though. It takes two to tango.
I only provide emotionally damaging stories and comedic relief. That's all I do. That's all I'm here for.
And you know what? That's the meat and potatoes of this podcast, honey, okay?
Fact. There you go. There you go.
Oh, my goodness. Welcome to another episode of the DNA Podcast. And I think our numbers are kind of switched because I think technically this is the 9th full episode, but we've been having some bonus episodes in between. So
yes,
either way, we are full steam ahead and here on another glorious episode, talk about a book. And what book are we talking about, Anna?
So we are talking about Full by Julia Spiro. Just to give you a little summary, it's about a wellness influencer, Ava Maloney, whose success is based on total transparency and well-documented virtues of her balanced life. But the truth is, Ava's social media platform is built on a lie, and her double life is beginning to take its toll.
Escaping Los Angeles for a luxury wellness retreat on Martha's Vineyard, Ava believes that she can get everything back on track, except someone is onto her, threatening to expose the secret she's hidden for so long. The fallout might also force Ava to finally reconcile who she's been pretending to be with who she actually is, a woman discovering the real meaning of a full and balanced life.
So for anybody who possibly struggles with eating disorders, body dysmorphia, this is a big trigger warning. So if you guys are uncomfortable listening to anything that might pertain to that, we do touch on some heavier topics throughout this episode, so feel free to maybe skip this episode and join us for our next one.
Absolutely. So, first impressions, what'd you think? What were your thoughts?
So, first impression, I knew it was going to be good. I didn't think I'd get sucked in the way that I did. I definitely kind of judged a book by its cover. I was like, all right, whatever. And then I started reading it and I was like, oh, fuck. Like, boom. First, 2 chapters, I was in it, and I was like, girl, we need to know what happens. Oh, no.
So that's so funny you say that, because I picked this one because the idea behind it was like, oh, I feel like this would be a really interesting topic that we've kind of touched on that discusses, society's expectation of perfection and,
right,
body image and stuff like that. I was like, oh, that might be an interesting topic. And I knew it was about an influencer. And I personally, I was like, okay, I don't really care about that kind of stuff.
Yes.
So not me. I don't give a shit about that. But so I did not think it was going to be as heavy and detailed into I guess borderline the psychology of somebody who struggles with bulimia and an eating disorder and body dysmorphia. So that was kind of surprising. And then I should have known this going into it based on what this, what Ava does as a career, right, as an influencer, that she is that stereotypical, I have to pose everything the right way and I have to write this and I have to do I'm not personally a big social media person, and I don't, and I can't wait to dive into that more later about societal expectations of how you represent yourself on social media and what's truth and what's fiction on social media.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of this that kind of cemented that feeling of, oh my God, this is what all influencers are like. And they lie to make money, and they're leading a double life. So it was kind of 50-50, I'll be honest, in my first impressions. I knew what I was expecting, and I got that. And then it took a totally different turn with how deep it went into everything with that eating disorder and what it does beyond the physical aspect of a person.
Right. And I guess I was kind of on the same lines as you, except the only thing is I didn't think I didn't think that scenarios that played out were going to play out in that type of way. My expectation was that, like, the character they set her up as in the beginning, I expected it to not have an impact on her. I expected her to go to this retreat.
Yeah.
And, like, see nothing. No, like, I thought that there was going to be no character shift, no nothing. And it was just going to be this, like, tragic downfall of, like, can't keep up with the bullshit forever, and then everything just crumbles.
Yeah.
Which, like, we'll get into that because it kind of does anyway.
Yeah.
but in a very different way.
Yeah. I kind of wanted to just dive in just to, like, plant the seed of what, you know, specifically Ava does. So, like, she is a wellness influencer. So she basically says that she has this Instagram account called the Grateful Avocado. And it started off when she was in the process of recovering from her eating disorder, that she just kind of wanted to document her journey and show others, you know, how she was doing. And essentially it caught on and she was very successful. And since then, it's grown into this thing that's not actually what it was intended for. So she kind of, you know, prides herself on being totally transparent and, oh, I ate this whole pizza pie, but it's okay because, like, it's all about balance. And she, you know, little did we know that she, you know, throws it up 2 hours later at most. So
yeah,
it's basically rekindled the eating disorder so that she does live this double life. So
So I think to set the stage, basically the entire book starts off with this girl, Ava, like she just introduced. But the way that the eating disorder is kind of put in perspective is that she's describing herself getting ready for this date that she has with a guy who's a realtor and is basically like this perfect guy. And so she's like getting ready and she's like, I need to look perfect tonight. So she like does her hair. She buys a whole new outfit. She goes to his house. And he's like, look, we're going to, like, stay in and have dinner tonight. And he gets this, like, smorgasbord of fucking food.
Yeah.
And the way that they start showing that she's still very triggered by food and very triggered with her eating disorder is that she's, like, already plotting in her head her escape plan of the food. And so essentially she, like, looks at all the food and immediately she's like, okay, bathroom's over there. I always have my hair tied so I can pull my hair back. I have my little, like, makeup compact in my purse so I can touch up my makeup. Da, 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 da. Like, she has, like, this whole fucking game plan, which leads you to believe, like,
she's been doing this for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and she's definitely not recovered and definitely has maybe she was recovered at a point in time, very briefly, but she's been full force for a while now.
Yeah.
So the entire downfall of this book and what sets the stage for her even going to this wellness retreat is that she has the dinner. And she's waiting for her moment. She's like, ooh, I'm going to put music on so he can't hear me. We're washing dishes. Like, she's like, okay, babe, do you mind, like, finishing loading the dishes into the dishwasher? Like, I'm going to go head to the restroom. She heads to the restroom. She's like, perfect. I can be out of here in 4 minutes. I've timed it. Like, let's go. She does her thing. She washes up. She goes to flush. And things go south. Essentially, the entire bathroom floods because the toilet is broken and all of her doings have appeared it's all over the bathroom. She can't clean it. So instead of coming clean and saying to the guy, like, listen, I already told you I, like, was a recovering bulimic, but this is what just happened in the bathroom.
Yeah.
She runs. She literally grabs her shit, doesn't even say bye to the guy, fucking bolts to her car, leaves, and that's it.
Yeah, which is interesting because only hearing you say it now, I just kind of made the comparison of, like, that being symbolic literally of her eating disorder, where she thinks she has it hidden down to a science and it's going to bubble up to the point where she can't hide it anymore and it's just going to friggin' explode everywhere and she's going to have to own up to it. And she chooses not to. So that's just to set the stage. But I think also, too, what I want to talk about, which, fun fact, this little Kindle version of this book had a bunch of fun book club questions at the end. So we'll be bringing a lot of those up throughout the episode. But one of them I wanted to talk about because I do kind of feel that the reason why her eating disorder progressed into what it was is because of her social media account and how much popularity it is. So what role do you think that, you know, Ava's followers and just also her social media in general have had in the way that she views herself? To me, I feel like she has to have this, like, inevitable upkeep to portray that she's fine, which is why she feels like she has to continuously binge and do things like this, you know?
Right. So my perspective of it is that the social media plays an aspect, but in my opinion, I don't think she was ever healed to begin with.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think that maybe she started the social media account as a form of like an outlet to like hold herself accountable with her food and documenting like how she's tracking her meals and stuff, because Instagram used to not be what it is today. It used to literally just be like, hi, look, this is my dinner. Like, that's all it used to ever be. It used to only be pictures and shit. So like she says like, oh, I was an OG influencer, and like that's kind of how this all started. And so I believe that. I think that it's our society today that's like the brand deals, the fucking collaborations, the this, the that probably added to the fact that she wasn't fully healed. She was using this as an accountability fucking account. And then all of a sudden, she's having brands reach out to her to portray a type of person. They're literally paying you to be a part of their brand and to look a certain way and whatever. And that plays a huge role later on in the book, where she's not playing that role anymore because she's still bulimic. She's lying about the lifestyle she's living. She's not living this balanced lifestyle. So I think it plays a massive role. But I do think regardless of the social media, I think she would kind of still be where she's at today, because I don't think she fully healed from the first time.
Yeah, and I not that I've had any experience with an eating disorder, but I do just feel like that's just one of those things that is going to be like a lifelong commitment of ebbing and flowing of, that journey of healing. And it's never like a linear process of, okay, you start here and you end here. It's just kind of like you have to ride the wave until things get better, and then prepare for if they get worse, and just kind of figure it out,
Yeah, because in my opinion, I think a lot of eating disorders also, that they tend to work on like self-esteem type of stuff, because that's a lot of the time what's sometimes at the root of these disorders, where an individual doesn't look like the way that they're looking, or they have poor self-esteem, and so they use these routes as their coping mechanisms, and then it becomes a formed habit or whatever it might be. So in my opinion, like, I think that she has probably some deep-rooted self-esteem issues as like a kid.
Oh, yeah.
That, you know what I'm saying? Like,
And
this was her outlet and whatever, and it's just progressed into this. So until she works not only on the bulimia, but also on the self-esteem portion, it's never gonna go away.
Yeah, and we definitely see hints of that too throughout, specifically with like her relationship with her mom, which when it's first hinted at, it's bizarre. Like, it's like ghostly almost, because she describes like when she was younger going to this buffet. I think it was around Christmas time or Christmas Eve, and like she would go with her whole family, and she talks like about her mom like when she was alive. So we're like, okay, we know she's dead, not sure how. And they're at a buffet, and so like her brother and dad go back for seconds, and like Ava wants to go back, and she gets up, and her mom places like a hand on her to say like, no, like, you're good. But then it's like weirdly describing that she's like, I looked at my mom and like she looked like ghostly, like it wasn't even her or something like that. Like, this is a very weird surreal moment. And then that's when she is like, I guess, first aware of her body and the size, and maybe I shouldn't. And I think that also kind of stems, because not that I can't recall at least them ever explicitly saying like, yes, Ava's mom had an eating disorder.
I don't think they did either, no.
But it is kind of implied. And I think, I don't know, I mean, I think that relationship definitely started, or at least planted the seed, unfortunately, of being hyper aware of how one appears.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct, yes. To continue, basically, the night after this entire binge episode and purge that occurred at her boyfriend's house, we get into the meat and potatoes, how she ends up at the resort. So she goes home. She has the biggest binge purge episode, essentially, that she has ever had, potentially. And basically she like blacks out, wakes up in the morning, and like is expecting to get a text from the guy. She does, and the guy's like, listen, I think you just have some shit to figure out. Like, I don't know if I'm equipped to handle this right now. Like,
good luck.
Yeah, good luck. And like, she's like, okay. Like, she didn't even try to fight or beg, because she knows that like kind of what happened is kind of, you don't really come back from that in an easy way.
No, it's kind of fucked up, yeah, but on both sides. But it's also kind of like, I guess in some way too, like, you have to kind of just be honest and be like, I didn't really sign up for this. So,
yeah,
it's hard.
If they were in like a longer or deeper relationship maybe, and they already like loved each other, all that,
Yeah, but
maybe it's a different story.
And he probably would have known if that was the case.
Being
long-term, so, yeah.
Right. So essentially she wakes up and she hears like a ding on her phone and she's like, your wellness retreat is only 3 days away. And she's like, oh, okay, like what's this? And she like clicks the advertisement thinking it's just an advertisement. And she's like, oh my God, like this is it. Like this sounds like such a good place to go. Like, let's go. She like reads into it and she's like, oh, fuck. It is like $40,000 or whatever craziness it is. But it's some 6-week retreat in Martha's Vineyard where it works on wellness and mental health and blah, blah, blah.
And specifically people who struggle with addiction or eating disorders.
Fine print.
Yes.
And so she looks and she's like, oh my God, I already paid for this? What? And she starts panicking. She's like, okay, it's fine. I'll just call and cancel. It's fine. I literally just ordered it like 3 hours ago when I was blacked out. It's fine. It should be fine. I'm fine.
Everything's fine. No, not fine.
She's not fine. She calls Martha's Vineyard and this lovely lady named Sarah picks up the phone. She's like, hi, welcome to Martha's Vineyard. How can I help you? Like literally she's like, hi, I'm really sorry, but like I need to cancel this. I just fucking blacked out and ordered this. Like I don't want to go. I'm not going.
Right.
And the lady's like, yeah, we don't really do refunds. I'm so sorry. In the worst voice you could possibly think of, that is who Sarah is.
Think of a Karen, but as a hippie.
Oh, yes. Hippie Karen.
Hippie
Perfect.
Karen.
Hippie Karen. She's like, yeah, well, we can like totally reserve your space here. You don't have to come. However, I think everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, and she's
really
like,
sorry.
you also were like really detailed with your application as if, you really wanted to be here, and basically outs her saying, yeah, you totally wrote about how like you feel like a fraud on social media and your whole career is a lie, and like literally word vomits to her. And Ava's like, oh my God, not only did I apply for this, but I gave so many freaking details that this person is just reciting to me over the phone of a secret that I've been trying to hide, which is I'm a fraud.
Yes. And it's so funny because she's like, listen, lady, I accidentally just clicked the yes button instead of no. And the lady's like, yeah, that's not how our system works.
It's like a very comprehensive process, actually.
She literally filled out like a 10-page application, literally had to download a third-party app on her phone to digitally sign the documents. She's like, bitch, I don't think you fucked up. This was intentional.
Yeah.
So
I don't think I've ever been that drunk in my life that I would have done anything to that length.
To that extent. I maybe purchased something like being a little tipsy, but I damn well knew I purchased it the next morning.
Yeah. Oh God. But so anyways, then she's like, fuck, guess I'm going to this. Going to Martha's Vineyard.
Off to Martha's Vineyard. Yes, ma'am.
Martha's Vineyard.
So she packs her bags and she basically is like, you know what? It's fine. Maybe this is going to actually help me, like whatever. So at first she's like kind of open-minded, but she's also panicking at how am I supposed to post my social media posts while I'm away for 6 whole freaking weeks. She's like, what the fuck am I gonna do?
Yeah, she's like, I can't tell people where I'm at. I can't like just tell them that I've been posting and being, untruthful on social media and everything's not fine. So she kind of like strategically is like, well, I've had a couple like posts that I've already taken. Like she's very meticulous with everything in her life, down to she's like, oh, well, certain nail polish, I know that like my followers will catch that, and like I have to make sure it's the same nail polish. It's a very neutral setting so they don't know I'm not in, where I say I am sort of a thing.
Which that bothered me because as an influencer, so you literally like, okay, sorry, I'm about to get heated right now. I just saw myself getting aggressive. That whole statement you just said bothers me so much because it's like we're annoyed at these influencers, right, for feeling like for being fake or not being themselves and being like somebody who they're not. However, they're almost forced to, because the second they show a fault, the second they show hey, like I'm posting this old picture, it's not from today, you're outed by these fucking keyboard warriors, trolls, who are just constantly out there nitpicking and hyper analyzing your life. So it's like, can you almost blame them? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but then I also feel too with like, I'm sorry if there's any Kardashian fans on here. I'm not one of them, but like with the Kardashians, like they're notorious for airbrushing and photoshopping and tweaking their bodies to be perfect. And I gotta say, it's not that I pick it out, but it is so fucking funny when people do, because it's like obvious stuff. Like, I'm sorry, are your fingers 10 feet long? Like, why did you do that? And that also, I wonder, is because of just the quote unquote brand that they've created for themselves of being these like very aesthetically perfect, pleasing people. Yeah. Which, how much is that their fault? How much of that is the expectation that we've built as a society by like glorifying those kinds of people? Like, it's a very weird share. I don't know.
Because the second the Kardashians are to step outside their house looking with their ass jiggly, their fucking t-shirt with stains on it, somebody's going to point out and be like, oh, Kim Kardashian, is she going through a divorce? Like, she doesn't look good.
Her life is falling apart. She's pumping her own gas. Like, it's insane.
So it's like we're almost forcing these people, because we've put them on a pedestal, to have to act like this.
Yeah.
So moral of the story is, Ava's in the same boat, and she has a backlog of photos. She's keeping her nail polish the same so that way people can't fucking pick her out or troll on her. And she's doing the best she can because she is being hyperanalyzed. And when you already have low self-esteem, an eating disorder, and you're hyperanalyzed on a daily basis, it's a recipe for disaster.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, my God.
Right?
Yeah. And I think, too, it's important to touch on that. I think, I mean, I can only speak from, like, the perspective of a female, but I'm sure some, like, men struggle with it, too. But in general, like, women have always felt like they need to look or act a certain way in order to be like genuinely accepted by society. And so this, like, for me personally, I'm kind of going on a tangent. It just, like, it was kind of hard reading this because it made me also feel like there's certain things that I struggle like with my body. Full disclosure, I literally went to the doctor a couple weeks ago and I audibly gasped when I saw the number on the scale, and I was like, that is atrocious. What the fuck happened? But it's so crazy because I feel fine. You know, I'm not in a point where it's like my body is like, I can't do certain things because of that. I will be honest, it was kind of hard reading this because not that I was ever to this like extreme level of like self-criticism, but in general, it just reminded me of like the self-criticism that I've had since I was younger to today about my body and what it looks like and how I should look. And like, when I get pictures taken of me, I'm like, can we do that again? I got like 4 chins going on. Like,
yeah. No, I feel you 100%. I've gone through the same exact thing. Like, granted, same thing as you. No, nothing to the point where it's like medically an issue. But I used to be in the military. I used to be an athlete. I used to do all these things. And then like...
then life changes and you're not those things anymore. And you're like, oh.
And I'm like sitting at a desk for 9 hours a day, not moving my ass once. And then all of a sudden I'm fucking 40 pounds heavier. And it's just like, how? And I'm like, wait, I know how. What am I talking about? How?
Doesn't make you feel any better. But then like circling back, it's like, I don't personally like look at people online and think, oh, I should look like that. I think it's way more subconscious because I think that on social media, when that's the only thing you're seeing, your brain kind of is expecting to only see that in real life. Because I feel like we have a very hard time differentiating between social media and reality. And what the whole, you know, point of, I think, this book and story is that they are not the same thing. And that you end up leading 2 different lives trying to portray it as your reality. And it's like, why do you want to try to be 2 people instead of 1?
And that's so sad because for an individual who already has these predisposed issues to have to then put on this front on a daily basis, I don't want to be in your shoes. I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that doesn't, you know, completely answer it, but I'm sure that's why she leads to like alcohol, to like be numb to the situation. Like it makes sense, you know, all things considered. So she gets there, right? She gets to the resort. She meets Sarah in person and she's just as, you know, hippie Karen in person.
Hi, are you sure you still want to check in? We're so glad you joined us. Y'all are going to literally unsubscribe from this podcast because you're going to hear my fucking hippie Karen voice. You're welcome.
Anyway, and so she does have the expectation of like, okay, I have my own room. So like with my own bathroom, I can do my own thing. Great. I have these posts lined up, but is it enough with how much I post? So she thinks, okay, well, you know what? There's a lot of healthy eating options here. Like, what if I link up with one of the staff members and just try to like see if they could like cut me up a nice plate of fruit that I can like, you know, post about whatever. And that's, you know, lo and behold, how she meets this one younger girl whose name is Naomi. And Naomi works there, but she's also kind of into like fitness and wellness and is interested in Ava because she also knows Ava. So like that's the other part of this is like she's technically an online celebrity, so she's kind of apprehensive of like, are people going to know who I am? Like, are they going to look at me and be like, uh-oh, famous
And they do.
wellness? And they do, and they do. That kind of also plants the seed of like, I need to hide all this. Like, I can't let people know. And so she ends up, long story short, forming this relationship and bond with Naomi in the sense of like, hey, I'll help you with your impromptu social media career if you help me do this and don't tell anybody about it. And that's kind of how that ball starts rolling.
Right. And so there's these moments where you see like Ava revealing kind of the truth to her because of the events that ensue while at the retreat. And it creates essentially just a recipe for disaster. So luckily she has 2 roommates that are there that are spectacular. They're like 2 completely different people. One's like an older woman and the other is this like top tier lawyer because mind you, everybody that goes to this retreat literally must be very wealthy because it's literally like fucking hundreds and thousands of dollars. Like it's ridiculous. Yeah. So everyone there is pretty well off, but it's so interesting to see why everyone else is there. Like, are they there for fitness? Are they there for mental health? Like, everyone could be there for a different reason. And there's like therapy sessions that they have to go to, and there's fitness classes, but nothing is mandated.
You're right.
So it's super interesting because it's like this like free will experience to basically cater to the individual. So day 1, Ava basically doesn't do jack shit. she's like fuck anything, yeah. Like da-da-da-da, yeah. And she's just like, I don't really want to be here. I'm just going to try to skate by and like be done with it. But as the time goes on, you kind of see Ava starting to participate, mainly because her first day or 2 there, she literally has to leave, go to the nearest town, and binge on a food place there, and then stock up in her room for binge and purge episodes. So she's already predetermining the fact that she's just going to skate through this entire 6 weeks, not learn anything and not grow from it. Or else, because if she did it, if she was actually going to grow from this,
she would have done those things and stockpiled all that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're already predetermining your outcome there of like, no, I'm going to stick to my old habits. So moral of the story is she goes out and she meets somebody, thankfully, but not thankfully. Who knows? She gets drunk, she binges, she meets somebody, she gets his phone number and whatever, and she's not thinking anything of it. She's like, yeah, fuck it, I'm just visiting here, like whatever, yeah, whatever. She gets back to her room, she purges, the day is done, new day. Little does she know that the guy that she met is an islander there at Martha's Vineyard, apparently well known because Sarah, her lovely hippie Karen friend, who's condescending at any opportunity she can be, literally's like, oh yeah, I know him. Yeah, he's kind of known on the island. Like, and then all of a sudden Ava's like, what was that supposed to mean?
Yeah,
like, am
very
I
passive aggressive.
Yeah, she's like, okay, well, thanks for the info, but I'm gonna do whatever the hell I want. And she goes, oh, and by the way, next time you leave, you like need to let us know, thank you. So she's just got this constant battle in her brain with Sarah, and she doesn't even know her. So one of the book questions I'm going to tie in, it's why do you think Ava is initially jealous of Sarah? What does Sarah represent for her?
Well, I think, and I forget where it happens, it might be later on in the book, but I think Ava at some point even says, does she represent like the freedom that I wish I had, where she can just do whatever she wants and doesn't have to worry about how she looks? I think in a weird way, sometimes, and we don't label it as jealousy, but I think sometimes when we meet somebody and we just don't get along with them at first, there is something about them that we are jealous of, which like sounds weird, but I mean, for me, sometimes it's like you just get a bad vibe from somebody and that's like not quite what I'm talking about, but there's something about a person that you meet and you look at them and you're like, there's nothing like actually wrong with you. I just don't like you. And that sounds super catty and bitchy, but I think that's because that's jealousy. Like, it's a very weird form of jealousy.
Yes. I also think that Ava is jealous of Sarah for the way she presents herself.
Yeah.
I think that because she describes her, she's like gorgeous with like effortless makeup and like a beautiful like boho style and like this attitude that's so like kill it with kindness type thing.
Yeah.
That it bothers her because she's like, fuck you. Like I'm perfect on social media, but I have flaws. Where are your flaws, bitch? Like that's kind of the vibe I got. So it's really interesting to see because it's almost as if Ava wishes that she could embody Sarah and be that carefree and be that authentically herself, but she cannot.
Yeah. And I also feel that probably the reason why she's jealous of her, and I don't know, maybe it's not jealous. I just think that the reason that they don't get along and what Sarah actually represents is the ability to be called out, because it's not like she's willing to do that for herself. So you have somebody who literally on the phone was like, here are all your problems that you told me in an application. So I think you need to come to this kind of a place. And to have somebody so, I mean, borderline aggressively, but bluntly spill out and be just brutally honest to you is not easy to take. And I think that's why she doesn't like her. And she's in a weird way jealous of her, because she is like the truth of the matter of like, this is your problem. And she doesn't want to face that.
No, she met her match for sure. And she's like, the fuck I did. I have faked it this far. I'm going to fucking continue to fake it for the next 6 weeks, lady. But then the lady's like, well, great. Now that I've seen you, let's get your therapy sessions booked up. And so she's like, ugh, all right, whatever. Mm. And moral of the story is, first therapy session, that therapist wasted no time and was just like,
diving right in.
Yeah. She's like, let's talk about your mom. And she's like, excuse me? Because mind you, all of the staff there, well, they're not supposed to have access to any of the records, but few of the staff members do. And, you know, there is this like confidentiality policy because it is technically like a mental health wellness retreat type thing. So there's like confidential information about patients and like their issues and whatever. So I'm sure that the therapist was able to see like, you know, the deloading of information that Ava did on her application, but she got right to it. And Ava was just like, excuse me? You just went there? Like, this is day one. You didn't even know me. Like, don't make assessments. Like, she got all defensive and was just like, don't. We're good here.
Yeah. Well, too, I mean, Ava explains how she's been through so many different types of therapists, family therapies, group therapies, one-on-one therapy. So she, like much everything else in her life, already predetermined how it was going to go and anticipated what she was going to ask, because she's like, I've been through this before, whatever. So when she's once again faced with something that is the truth, she denies it and she wants to just push it away.
Yes. And I think that there's so many little hints throughout the entire book that kind of set the stage. I think this is the first sign of potential progress, because this is the first sign of her being like, I already know the predetermined outcome. And this is basically like the book telling us like, it's not going to go that way, hun. Like,
yeah.
And regardless of what you're going to try to do, that at least the therapy is going to pull through.
Yeah. And like you said, the very first inkling of things are not going to go as planned. I think one of the major things that's just subtly reminding her in the background is she gets this weird DM on Instagram.
Oh, yes, duh. How
from, I don't know, I just thought of it. From somebody called Mermaid in, I think, 1985 or 86 or something.
Red flag to begin with.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you who I thought this person was later on, because I thought it was going to be a totally different story, but it's fine. This person, Mermaid 19 whatever, DMs her and says, like, I know your secret. I know where you actually are. And it's like these weird, ominous messages, basically saying along the lines of, I know what you're really doing. I know why you're there, and I have this information. And if you don't come clean, I will spill it out to all your followers and you won't have like a career or anything. So she tries to ignore it, because it's like the whole thing of like, if you get a weird message from somebody, if you ignore it long enough,
the trolls
till it goes away. Exactly. So meanwhile, that is just slowly planting the seed, and I think it also further accelerates her need to like stay on top of it and like increase, unfortunately, like the binging and the perfectionism and like all this stuff. And meanwhile, like you had said, she has these two roommates, and you can tell that they're aware of what's going on, but they really don't address it until later on in the book.
Yeah.
Which I think is hard too, because I don't think I've ever personally had a conversation with somebody who has struggled with an eating disorder. I know people who have, and it's a very delicate thing, because as we've seen previously, Ava's a very defensive character. Yes. And so trying to, even if it comes in a very heartfelt and genuine way, trying to have that hard conversation is pretty much a waste of breath at that point, unless the person's willing to accept and be like, yeah, I am actually, I'm glad you asked, like, I'm struggling a lot, or, you know, whatever.
Yes. So that actually, you just perfectly tied in one of the questions I wrote down for the book. So we see it in the first big scene where she ends up getting, the disaster at her boyfriend's house. Mm-hmm. You see her first initial response being this like fight or flight type of thing. And you just said she's this super aggressive person and da-da-da-da. But in that moment, she was totally flight. She didn't even choose to fight.
Yeah.
So like for you in your daily life, when you have these moments of like being outed or whatever, something goes so awry or out of proportionally like wrong. And so many times it happens in this book, she constantly chooses flight. Meanwhile, in her brain and in her attitude, you'd think she'd totally be fight.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what do you think like you are in terms of like fight or flight, or like how you would deal with these situations?
Oh, bitch, I fly away every time.
Girl, I'm a girl wings and I'm outie.
Girl, I am not a confrontational person whatsoever. I'm only confrontational if it's like I have a very close relationship with you. So like obviously like romantically with Alec, we also live together, so we have to be confrontational. Yeah. But even like, not that you and I, and we've talked about this, but like not that you and I were ever confrontational, but there's times that you and I have both gone through things that we both had to be very honest with each other. Yes. And I think you owe that when you're in a certain relationship with somebody. And that's not like fight. Like I wouldn't consider that fight, but
no, yeah.
There are other situations where it's just like, I'm out of here. I'm going to pretend like that didn't happen.
Yes.
It would have to be, for me personally, it would have to be something either like very personal or something that's very tied to something that I personally believe in, for me to like speak up and be like, actually, no, I don't agree with that. What about you? What do you think? I think you're fight.
Oh, I'll fucking cut a bitch.
I know you will.
But I'm weird. It's definitely certain situations. Like work, I'm flight.
Yeah, dude.
If there's confrontation at work, I fucking fly away. If there's confrontation in the family, I'll fight a bitch. If there's confrontation in the streets, I'll fight a bitch.
Oh my God.
Like, it's just... It depends on my environment, and like if I'm confrontation with like a lover, like whatever, like I'll fight. But I'm so weird. Like when it comes to like work or like professional things like that affect me, like I know can physically affect like my well-being, like my lifestyle, I'm like, no, I'm fine. What do you need? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just really,
I get the thing with work. I mean, not that I've had like arguments with people at work, but I've had situations where I wanted to speak up and say something and I just didn't know how to do it in a, quote unquote professional way and constructive way.
Right.
And unfortunately with work, I think it's because there's the money tied to it. Like nobody wants to get fired. Nobody wants to lose their, and it's so funny because I'm sure the things that you and I are discussing that we're like, oh, I really wish I'd said something. If we had said something, probably almost, I'm going to bet 99% wouldn't have gotten we wouldn't have gotten fired for it. So, and I think that's a weird take too, because it's the opposite with Ava, like in personal things. And like more so mentally, because she even talks about like when the first guy that we were talking about that she was dating before the retreat and it didn't obviously work out because of the whole, binge thing. She kind of is like, after all, anyone who makes me feel the need to be perfect all the time probably isn't right for me.
Done.
And then before then, she kind of, because until she gets to that point, she's also kind of like, oh, well, like I was really expecting them to like kind of come to me with like open arms and like whatever, like kind of ready for, to fight for her. And then when that wasn't met, she was like, all right, peace out, I'm leaving. So it's weird. I feel like in her personal life, especially with Sarah, the therapist, and even kind of Stephanie and Rhoda, her roommate, she's very defensive. So she's willing to put up that fight. But when it comes to her career, she's choosing to ignore. So she does the flight.
Yes.
So it's interesting. It's opposite.
It's right. It's so weird. So she's going to therapy and blah, blah. And so this guy, Jeremy? Dude, he'll be Jeremy for now.
I can't remember his name. I'm so sorry.
He'll be Jeremy for now. It's fine. So this guy essentially reaches out to her the next day and is like, hey, let's go for a walk. And she's like going on these dates while being at this retreat with this guy who is just so the opposite in attitude, in whatever. And we see the biggest shift in just the perspective of where she is in life and the people she's surrounding herself with when they go on a date, and she was expecting like, okay, it's totally fine. Like, I'll just order a salad, because her thing was that she'll eat and keep things down that are healthy. Yeah. Anything that's not in the healthy category, she feels the immediate need to binge and purge. So basically, she gets to this restaurant. She's like, perfect. I'll just order a salad. Like, everything will be great. Blah, 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 blah. Well, she gets there and everything is like super indulgent, where it's like truffle pasta with a garlic aioli and like all this like gorgeous gourmet meals, but she knows damn well it's going to be heavy and something that she is going to feel the need to purge. And it happens. So she eats and she's like, it's fine. I'm sure there's a bathroom. It's fine. She goes to the bathroom. The bathroom has like this like rinky dink ass door. Yep. Mind you, she's in Hippieville, Martha's Vineyard, so everything's like super like rustic farmhouse, da da da, and it's like this super
you can hear everything.
Old door. Yeah, it's like not even sealed top and bottom. You can like hear the person sniffling. She's like, oh my god, I can't do this, and so she puts a time limit on herself that after 30 minutes, it's like hard for her to purge because your food enters your actual like digestive system.
It starts digesting what it's supposed to do. Yeah.
Right. And so she's like, I have 30 minutes to get the fuck out of here. So she fakes being sick. She gets taken home by the guy. And it's a big moment for her because she puts herself in this box of not being able to break out of it because it causes like literally a mental breakdown for her because she describes it as if she's feeling like suffocated. Like it's like once the roll of it starts happening, she loses control. And that's where you really see the perspective of people who have these types of eating disorders. Sometimes it's a control thing. Other times it's fully not in control. And this is the first time I think you see that in the book.
Yeah. And I think overall, it's always not so much in control. It's just, it's been disguised of like, oh, I do this to stay in control. But really, you are almost powerless to this illness and this disease. Yeah. And I think it's interesting because one of the things that she talks about a lot is that Ava actually loves food. She loves the idea of cooking. She considers herself a foodie, which is also kind of why she started the whole Instagram, because it was like she actually enjoyed the whole prep aspect of food. So that being said, since she does have this weird like love-hate relationship with food where she actually loves it, she loves the ability to cook and combine flavors, which is why when she went to this place with whatever this guy's name is, Jeremiah, whatever your name is, the menu and the food is incredible, but she can't actually enjoy it because she's thinking of the quote unquote repercussions of how it's going to affect her. So do you think it's possible for her to ever find a healthy relationship with food, being that her relationship is so contrasted with it?
I think yes and no. I think yes, in only if she first heals the underlying reasons why she has the negative relationship with food. Mm-hmm. Because those things that happened to her in her childhood, such as her mom being like, no, don't eat that. Yeah. Or the day that her mom snapped at her finally and was like, I'm fat, I'm this, I'm that. And she's like, Mom, you're perfect. Like, what are you talking about? I think it's not until those things in her life are healed that she'll ever be able to. Like, so yes, but once she does steps XYZ.
Yeah. And I think that also brings up another point, which maybe we can get to in a different episode, but I don't know if you've ever felt this way. I can't say I've completely related to it, but I think as a daughter, and depending on the relationship you have with your mom, I'm not saying that's where a lot of body image issues form, but I do think that is where you become aware of your body, because I don't think it's different, you and I, like, talking to each other, because we don't have kids. We don't have like little ones looking up to us that actually listen and hear a lot more than what we think they do. But even things like that, like there's people that I hear that are like, I feel so fat, I feel so gross in this, and I look at them, I'm like, what are you talking about? And like I have the distance in that friendship to not take it personally, but it's different when somebody that you idolize and look up to for guidance and direction in life, as like a mom, says that about themselves, because it makes you almost feel like you have to question those things about yourself.
And it's really interesting. I never noticed it or picked up on it until I had all these nieces and nephews come into my life. The weirdest fucking things. Like last weekend, I was going to a wedding and we were all trying on dresses, and my mom has had 4 kids and my sister Fran has had 4 kids. I have had no children. So my niece looks at my stomach and then looks at my mom's stomach and is like, Titi, why does Nuna's belly have marks on it? And I had this moment of like, okay, I need to answer this very properly. I was like, well, you know where babies come from, right? And she goes, yeah, mommy's belly. And I said, well, when you have babies in mommy's belly, it leaves marks.
You got forward, and
Like,
that thing stretches.
Yeah, like, right. And I had it, and because she looked down at her belly, she's like, mine doesn't have marks. And I said, right, because you didn't have any babies yet. Like, I had to like play it off, or like whatever, because automatically she was looking and judging our bodies, saying like, mine's not what that is. Why?
Yeah, and kids notice differences, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think the way you handled it was perfect because you didn't like make a connotation between it being a negative thing.
Right.
And I think that's what happens so much, and aside from moms, but just in general as you're growing up, like even like other kids that you talk to when they're like, oh, why that? And it's like you're at such an influential point in your life where you just kind of soak everything up as a sponge, and stuff like that makes such a big impact that I don't think we realize until we're much older, and we do things like therapy and all the wonderful things about being an adult, and those things come out and it's like, wow, I never really was aware of that and where that could have possibly came from.
And I think it's eye-opening when like you are like looking in the mirror and you're judging yourself super hard, and then someone walks in and is like, I thought you looked great.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you see that I'm not seeing right now? Because we tie this in every single fucking episode. Our perception is our reality. If I'm looking in the mirror and I feel disgusting that day, I feel disgusting. And I'm going to see something that I'm, no matter what I alter, I'm not going to be happy with, because that's how I'm internally feeling. Versus you looking at me being like, oh my God, you're glowing today. And I'm like, how? What the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? How?
Yeah. It's hard. It's really hard too, because I mean, I think about that all the time, especially now that we're like in summer and we're wearing swimsuits and stuff, and being so hyper aware of your body, and then seeing people who are totally different sizes, on every end of the spectrum of body type, and just honestly, confidence is the key, because you can be bigger or smaller than me, but if you are confident in who you are, like, you look amazing in it. And
it's so true.
And it's so funny because like I think like, okay, well, I look this way, but like I don't really like this, and like, oh, I got a little bit of like cellulite down there, like I kind of really don't want to like show that or whatever. And it's like I just don't feel good because I'm so critical of myself. But if I like looking at all these other people who don't care and are just like, this is my body, and I'm trying to live my life or whatever, it just makes you think like, oh crap, maybe I should like be a little bit kinder to myself.
Yeah. No, for sure. Also, I finally found his fucking name. It's Carter.
Ugh.
Yeah. Sorry.
Where the hell did we get Jeremy from? Whatever.
I don't know. You fucking said it, and I was like, yes, that's it. Mm-hmm. All right. So I do have a question I did write down, right? So I don't get me wrong. I do think that there is a bit of condescendingness to Sarah's character. I do.
Oh, absolutely.
It's fine.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not
However,
arguing with that. Yeah.
Do you think that Sarah is actually being condescending, or do you think that that's Ava's interpretation of her? You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying.
Because we're reading it through Ava's eyes, right? This whole entire book. And so like, for one, do you think that Ava's actually being like a bitch about Sarah, essentially, just because she's jealous or whatever it might be? And then, have you personally ever misjudged someone based on your own personal insecurities? Because I think that that's exactly what's happening with Sarah. So, go.
Yes. As a Capricorn, I think I come across sometimes a little too harsh and blunt, and I don't mean to, and it's just the way it comes out. And I could totally understand why that would be interpreted as such. So, I see that aspect of it. And then what was your other question about something about seeing in others? What was the...
I said, have you ever misjudged someone based on your own insecurities? Because that's what I think Ava's doing to Sarah.
I'm sure I have. I can't like pin a specific moment, but it's kind of like similar to what we were just talking about with kids. I think in general, like it's got to be some weird survival mechanism where it's like we pick out the differences in people because we have to, for our brain to process it, we have to put it in a box somehow. And so if you see things that other people have that you don't, you immediately put it in this like category, whether that's a good category or a bad category. So I don't know. I feel like I definitely have. I just can't think of like an example or something, or how like what I took away from it. But I've definitely looked at somebody and been like, ugh, whatever, because of my own insecurities. And that takes actual growth and work to be able to recognize that. And it's not like in the moment for sure. Because like we've all been there where we're like, ugh, what is she doing? Why is she acting like that?
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I wish I could do that low key. But like I don't know that in the moment when I'm judging this person. Yes.
And I think there's definitely like we always, I think genuinely, because I think first impressions are key in life. I think a first impression is sometimes the lasting impression you have of somebody. And when you have, like, let's say some negative narrative in your head, just by looking at someone, because I know I have some serious RBF. It's because I've got these like fucking dagger eyebrows that like make me look angry when I'm really not. I'm such a kind person. I mean, I think I am, at least. People will just look at you and be like, bitch. And I'm like, and then they get to know me and they're like, oh, I thought you were going to be a lot meaner. And I was like, why?
Yeah.
Why? I don't. What,
You know, that's so funny you say that, because I remember when I was an RA in college, that we had to come to like a campus early to like train and stuff. And we played this game. I don't know what it was called, but it was essentially like there were certain people that were in the circle and they had to go and like tap somebody, and everybody outside, it was like 2 circles, and the bigger one like had to all have their eyes closed. And one of the questions, I wasn't the tappers or whatever, but one of the questions was tap someone who you find intimidating. And I got a tap. And I was like, what? I was like, who thinks I'm intimidating? Now, granted, I only got one. Some people got multiple. But it totally put it in perspective of just like,
how you can come off.
Yeah. And like, I remember, I forgot who like it was, but I remember talking to them and they were like, yeah, you were just like really quiet. So I just thought that you were really intimidating. And I was like, what? I'm just shy as fuck. Like,
how does that make sense? You're quiet, so I'm intimidated by you. If anything, if you were a loudmouth, I thought you'd be intimidating.
But that's someone's interpretation of it. You know what I mean?
Ugh, stop. I guess you're right. Whatever. So she comes back from this date and she bumps into Naomi, and it's in the main lobby, and she is panicking because she's like, that car ride was 20 minutes. I have 30 minutes to be able to fucking purge. She's steamrolling.
Yeah.
She bumps into Naomi, and Naomi's already upset with her because she's kind of found out that like she's altering her pictures. She's doing this, she's doing that, because she's seeing Ava in real life. And Naomi has a very different interpretation of her now. And she's like, no, I get it. We have to be fake in order to make it. And in that moment, fucking Ava just lets it out, and she's like, don't you fucking get it? I'm bulimic. I'm this. I'm that. I'm a fucking fraud. Just leave me alone. Like, and she goes off on Naomi because she just bumped into her. It literally was a perfect example of wrong place, wrong time. And explosion occurs. She goes her separate ways. She goes into her room. She purges it out. She binges it out all night and purges. And she wakes up in the morning and she's like, well, this is rock bottom round 2. Carter's just gonna, oh, by the way, his name's Carter. We figured it out. Carter is gonna just blow me off just like my first boyfriend did, because I just did the same exact thing and blah, 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 blah. But this time you start to notice the shift, because she's like, you know what? No, I gotta apologize. This isn't okay.
Yeah.
And so she goes out of her way to find Naomi. She apologizes, and Naomi's like kind of accepting of it, but she feels as though something's off, and something is off. Meanwhile, these messages from her troll mermaid 1995 or whatever is just saying like, TikTok, lady, TikTok. It's only a matter of time. You're about to be outed. If you don't say something, I'm going to do it soon. And so she takes this as okay, I'm at a point. I need to like actually disconnect from social media.
Yeah.
So she posts to her followers. She's like, hey guys, I got to go off the grid for a little bit. Like, I need to focus on myself. I'm here at this retreat. Like, just like, let me do me for a minute. She doesn't go any further.
Yeah.
Fine. Then she goes, and her roommates are like, listen, we got to talk.
We know what's going on.
We love you. We don't judge you, but let's just go. We're going to have a day. So they go and take her to like this like farmer's market to just get her mind off of things. And they kind of confront her in the most kind way possible. They're just like, listen, we know, we heard last night. We live in the same, cabin. The walls are only so thick.
We heard you throwing up.
Yeah. And they were basically just like, we love you. We don't judge you, but like, let's work on it. We don't have to talk about it, but we're here for you. We're going to get your mind off of it today. And they do exactly that.
Such good friends for,
Honestly.
not even really knowing each other at all, being complete strangers.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So moral of the story is they proceed back, and she now takes this. Finally, I think this is her learning curve. She's in her therapy sessions. She's working on shit with about her mom, and she's really unraveling the idea that her mom possibly is the reason why she's bulimic, but not in the sense of that she body shamed her, but because she felt as though she had this like expectation to please her mother. And so by I don't know, chime in here, because it was more so like how she described it was just that, like,
Well, she ultimately comes to the conclusion that because her mom's gone, the only real way that she feels like she's still close to her mom is by continuing to be bulimic, because that's like the tie. The tie is because of her mom. So she essentially, yes, she is the way that she is because of her mom, but I think she continues to do it to somehow feel closer to her mom. It's like a very twisted relationship. To me, it doesn't make sense, but I'm also not bulimic. So there's that.
Yeah.
But it's basically snowballed into something that she can't control. It started off as something of like, hey, I see the way my mom perceives herself, or like I have an expectation of how I should look, or whatever.
And I think there was an aspect of having to forgive her mom for like, quote unquote, like leaving and like passing.
Yeah.
And like instilling these ideas that she does have to uphold like a perfectiveness that her mom upheld, because her mom was always perfect. And like there's just these little points of why she felt as though her mom was responsible, but she needed to forgive her mom, but in a way that her mom was never villainized. Mm-mm. It was just that she learned that these things were all rooted from a very different place other than just her own personal insecurities.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, in general, I feel like that's something you learn as you get older, is like you place such high stock in your parents or just people that you look up to, and then you slowly start to realize as you get older that they are human and that they're not perfect. And some people take that and accept it with grace, and other times it really stunts people's growth and they get stuck into really destructive habits like this.
So next day, she's fully outed. Everybody knows. Everybody, whoever the fuck, literally released like an article to the press. So now Ava has lost her brand deals, and like people are freaking out. They posted the video of her screaming at Naomi in the lobby that night she had her episode. Yeah. Right. And so she's like, okay, for one, it has to be Sarah. Sarah's a condescending bitch, and she's been out to get me since day one. So she charges at Sarah and she's like, fuck you. Like, why did you do this? Da da da. And Sarah's like, honey, I didn't do anything. But basically, we're like, okay, so then who the hell is this mermaid lady? Who outed her? Like, her life is officially crumbling. Right when it was starting to finally get better, she was working on herself. She told her followers, hey, like, I'm going off the grid. I'm doing this thing.
And then boom.
She didn't disclose enough to satisfy Mermaid 1995, so they outed her. Lo and behold, if it's not Sarah, then who is it?
I had a theory of who else it could have been. And like I said, so here's the thing. Now you will know that this is wrong because it's a theory and it doesn't matter. But either way. So the person's name is Mermaid, let's just say 1985, okay? Carter. When he first meet Ava, they have a conversation about going swimming. And he talks about swimming being a healing therapeutic process. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's him. The car he pulls up in, she specifically says is a 1985 truck.
Oh, and so you little conspiracy theorist.
I was sitting here and I was like, oh shit. I was like, I don't think it's going to go this way. But this would be such an awesome twist if it was him the whole time. It fucking wasn't. So I was a little disappointed. The person it is kind of obvious, I guess, when you realize. But I was really hoping it would be Carter, because I'm like, what? Oh my God, that would have been crazy.
If you had connected those dots, I would have personally had to like, I would need to commend you and like personally send you like a fruit basket or something, like literally. But lo and behold, it's Naomi.
Yeah, well, yes. See, like when you know it, you're like, oh, well, duh. I was too busy having conspiracy theories, like, it's the boy.
Yeah. His truck was also mermaid blue.
Yeah. Which is so dumb, but I was just like, I was really hoping that would have some significance as to who the fuck it was, and it kind of didn't at all. So like, that's kind of my one.
You tried.
That's my one like grudge a little bit. Then when we talk about the ratings and stuff, like I was like, what the fuck was that about?
Yeah.
But yes, so Naomi.
Carter was so understanding. He was like, listen, like, my sister was bulimic. Like, I don't judge you. And she's like, oh, God, you're perfect. Like, whatever. Like, she's just like, I think I found a place where I'm not judged. And I think the fact that she was living in LA, living that fake lifestyle, it all played a role. And so in order to really heal from this, not only did she have to, she needed to go away. And so she does. And so the owners of the place literally come up to her and they're like, hi, I'm really sorry. Don't sue us, please. And she's like, you know what? No, I'm not going to sue. I'm deleting my social media account regardless. But there is something you can do for me. So we essentially just find out she goes back to LA. She gathers her things and she is right back at the end in Martha's Vineyard, working in a kitchen,
doing
finding
something
this
she
relationship.
loves.
Yes, finding this relationship with food and doing it in on her terms. Naomi obviously got fired, bitch.
She did some illegal, so
yeah. And like, I don't remember. Does she end up with Carter? They don't really.
Yes.
She's there. She's cooking, and it's a time for the holidays, and she invites her brother and her dad, and they're all still very sensitive on the topic of the mom's death. And so this is the first time that they've ever sat down as a family, like on a holiday, like really being with each other.
Yeah, to create a new memory as opposed to the old one at the buffet.
Yes. So that's basically how it ends. And you can kind of tell that while she might not be fully healed, she's definitely healing. She's forgiven her mom. She's ultimately forgiven herself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like the one quote that's towards the end where she says, hitting rock bottom might be the best thing to have happened to me in a while, I realize. There's nothing to do from here but change, start over, redirect myself. And what a gift, in a way, I think, to get a start over.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that it was important that she not only forgave her mom, but forgave herself. And I don't know. What was your overall rating?
Out of 5? I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this one.
Uh-oh.
It's going to be probably a 3.
Shut your front door.
Yeah.
Why?
So I liked this, but I really, really, really strongly would not recommend this book to anybody who's had like a hint of an eating disorder, because I felt, not that I've had one, but I felt like borderline triggered from like being in the brain of somebody who had an eating disorder, and to like fully be immersed in a world where it's like it determines every single thing that you do. It made me like hyper aware, like in real life, and I was like, oof, maybe this isn't a good book for me. I don't know. But I was also kind of mad because I really like, I knew it was probably going to be like one of the people that worked there that was like outing her.
Yeah, of course.
I was really freaking hoping it was going to be Carter, but like it's fine. Would have been a really cool twist, but it's fine.
I was hoping it was going to be Sarah so she can have this like cathartic ending moment of being like, fuck you.
She kind of did, and then it backfired.
Yeah.
She's like, girl, it was not me. Why are you yelling at me?
Yeah. And she's like, fucking fuck, you're just nice, bitch. Like, she's like mad.
Yeah. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because I did enjoy it. Like, I liked the book, but I also, like I said in the beginning, I just didn't expect it to be so all-encompassing around like body dysmorphia and bulimia. And so I think that really just kind of like took me by surprise. I do think that if you are not somebody who has struggled with this stuff, you would probably like it, but I think there's so many deeper things that it speaks upon, which is what I liked about it. I don't know if it was like the actual story or just the bigger topics it like brings up to like think about, you know?
So I think my overall rating is, I'm going to give it like a 4.5 out of 5. Like, I really liked it. I was borderline about to give it a 5 out of 5. The reason being is because I had a bulimic best friend growing up.
Oh, right.
And this was so healing for me to understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. It made me put into perspective, like, my own body, same thing. But it was almost healing for me to finally get some perspective and to understand, because there's just, So I really liked it. I 10 out of 10. We'll recommend.
So it was a 4.5. Now it's 10 out of 10.
It's a 4.5.
I'm just trying to stay consistent. As always, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for recommending us books and stuff. We love interacting with you guys on social media. Even if you don't interact with us, it's fine.
Answer the goddamn questions. I said it. Answer the goddamn questions. Thank you. It's not hard. Shut your mouth and answer the question.
Yeah, no, seriously though, engage with us. So I just recently learned on Spotify you can't do reviews, which is super strange. But please rate us. It takes 5 seconds and a little tippy tap on whatever platform you listen to. If it's less than 5 stars, hey, that's okay. Don't be scared.
Yeah, don't be shy. I got thick skin, bitch.
I mean, she's in the army. She might, like, put you in a chokehold, but, like, it's not going to be that bad.
We've established I'm fight, not flight.
Right. I'm not going to do anything about it, so, like, why not?
Dakota's gonna message you, be like, thank you so much for your
Constructive
feedback. Meanwhile, I'll be like, fuck you. I'm staying the same, bitch. You don't like that I curse? Your mom's a hoe. Thanks for tuning in. We hope today's episode makes you feel a little bit more connected to your true self.
Don't forget to follow the DNA Podcast on Instagram so you never miss another episode.
Until next time.